Alright, going to be working on Algebra AA5, factoring quadratics with leading coefficients. This is just going to be the lesson part. We're going to be doing the examples in the next video. So this is just the lesson, kind of get a little zoomed out shot here. If you want to pause it so that way you can write down everything, you can at this time. So we're going to kind of talk through our quadratic form. So remember, in this part, we're going to be doing ax squared plus r1x plus r2x plus c. Now, we probably remember a bx here. We're going to be splitting that bx into two different parts during most of these problems. And so it'll make a little bit more sense when we start doing it. So we got to know that a times c, so the front coefficient, the leading coefficient, and the back number times each other will make the r times r1 times r2. So make the r1 and r2 is the same as a times c, and then our b, which our b was right here, it was just bx over all of this part, okay? But the b now is going to be broken up into r1 plus r2, okay? So r1 plus r2, all right? That will make your b total. Make a little bit more sense. This is a note. You won't have to do this at the moment for the first few problems or in this problem, this example problem. But always make sure that nothing can factor out in the beginning of the problem. That'll make a little bit more sense in the next video. We'll come back to it. So just kind of make a note of that and then kind of like highlight it, and then we'll come back to it later. All right. Going to our steps. Step 1, find a times c. Step 2, factor a times c. Step 3, find b, and then remember b is r1 plus r2. Step 4, replace the b with the factors and then rewrite the problem. Step 5, factor by grouping. And then our step 6, write your factoring. So that'll be our final step. All right, now just up here at the top, turning your ax squared plus bx plus c into, and then just rewriting it. So remember, this is what we were working on the other day, and this is what it'll look like now, okay? For a brief moment to help you solve the problem. That's all it's for. All right, so our problem is going to be 2v squared plus 9v plus 9, okay? So we're going to be factoring this out. And remember, a times c is r1 plus r2. So we're trying to break b into two different numbers, okay? So to figure that out, we're going to have to do 2 times 9. So a times c. So here's our a, here's our c. So 2 times 9. 2 times 9. 2 times 9 is 18, so find your a and c. So find your a times your c. We already did that. That's step 1. Not a hard step, but one that is great importance into solving these. Now, step 2 is to factor our a times our c. So now we're going to factor 18. Okay, so 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. And then we're going to figure out which of these factors, so does 3 and 6, 2 and 9, or 1 and 18 make up 9 if we add these two numbers together? Well, 1 and 18 make 19, 2 and 9 make 11, and 3 and 6 make 9. So obviously 3 and 6 is what we're going to be using. So B is now 9. Okay, we know the B is the 9. All right, obviously right there, but we're breaking this 9, the B, down into our R1 and our R2. Make sure your smallest factor is first. It's pretty important. All right, so now we're breaking this down. So now 9V has turned into 3V plus 6. Okay, so we found our B, now breaking down B into R1 and R2. I guess you could write that down right there, breaking it down into R1 and R2. So we're going to break this down. We got it broke down. Replace B with the factors and rewrite the problem. So we replaced it. Now we've got our new problem. So we're going to take this new problem and we're going to rewrite it. So look right here, I kind of got it wrote down. I got to zoom out a little bit. Take the first two terms. So 2v squared and the 3v. So our a with our variable squared, and then our r1. So we're going to do 2v squared and 3v. We're going to take that, stick it right here, and then we're going to factor out the greatest common factor, GCFs, the greatest common factor. So we're going to take out the greatest common factor between this right here. So what does the 2v squared and the 3v have in common? Well, obviously they have a v. 2 and 3, they don't go into each other in any shape or form except with 1, so that's not going to change anything. So we're going to take that v out. So we're going to stick it right there, and then we're going to write down in parentheses what's left over. So if we took a v out of the 2v squared, we're going to be left with a 2v. The squared keeps one of the v's there, so we're going to be left with a 2v there. And then if we take the v away from the 3, we're only left with a 3 left. Okay, so we got the v by itself, 2v plus 3. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for our 6v plus 9. So we're going to take, just kind of zoom out again, now take the second two terms and factor out the greatest common factor. So we're going to factor out the 6v and the 9. Okay, so what does 6v and 9 have in common? Well, 6 will divide by 3, 9 will divide by 3, so we take out a 3. So if I did 6 divided by 3, it gives me 2v. If I do 9 divided by 3, it gives me 3. Okay? But hopefully you've noticed now that this factoring and this factoring are the same. If they don't make the same, then you did something wrong. You set it up wrong, you did the wrong factors, you need to go back and look and see what you did wrong. If they are the same, that's a pretty good indication you're on the right track. Okay? So that was our 5th step. Not hard steps, factor by grouping, that is your grouping. So you grouped here, and you did, quote unquote, 2 different problems. Not really 2 different problems, it's the same problem, but by grouping it, you did 2 different things. They're the same thing, but you did 2 different things in the same problem. So you factored the 2v squared and the 3v, got v, and then 2v plus 3, and then you factored the 6v plus 9, and you got 3, and then 2v plus 3. So what does this mean? Now all you're going to do is write your answer. Okay, that's all you got to do, and this is how you write your answer. So look, wrote it upside down. So we're going to look at the bottom part first. Now you stick what you took out as your first part of your answer. So you're going to take out the 3 and the v. So what we took out the v, we took out the 3, and we're going to rewrite those as the answer. So down here, you did v plus 3. So the v comes first, the 3 comes second because it was the first. The v was the first part of the grouping. The 3 was the second part of the grouping. So the v comes first, 3 comes second. And how do you know it's plus? Well, it's a positive 3. This was a positive v. So you do positive v, positive 3, and that's the first part of your answer. And then you notice that these 2 are the same. They're the 2 of the same because that's the second part. Okay? So you should notice the factoring on the inside the parentheses is the same. This is the second part. This is the second part of your answer. So all you do is take your 3 and your v, so your v plus 3, put it in parentheses, and then take what you got out of both of them, and then stick it as the second part of your answer.